Hi guys, welcome back to the news. The Nigerian Labour Congress has insisted that the so-called palliative provided by President Bola Tinubu-led government is an insult to Nigerians, as each legislator went home with 100 million, while hundreds of thousands of Nigerians in each local government grapple with some few bags of rice. The organized labor on Tuesday threatened to begin an indefinite strike should the federal government fail to meet its demands at the end of a 21-day ultimatum, which will expire approximately in 1 week's time. And yes, the workers' union said the proposed strike was necessary following the failure of the federal government to provide palliatives to assuage the Nigerians' hardship as a result of the fuel subsidy removal. The Nigerian Labour Congress said the industrial action, which may commence any day from next week, would lead to an indefinite shutdown of commercial and economic activities across the country. Speaking with The Punch on Tuesday, the National Assistant General Secretary of the NLC, Mr. Christopher Onyeka, said the federal government was wrong, very wrong, to share a bag of rice to dozens of citizens, while reportedly giving 100 million palliative to each member of the National Assembly. Well, the union had on September 1st handed down a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government over the delay in the sharing of palliatives, saying it might be compelled to declare an indefinite labor action if its demands were not met. And if the government fails to provide the appropriate response to meet our demands, we will encourage you to maintain your steadfast resolve. The same passion and determination that fueled this warning strike will be very, very crucial if we find ourselves compelled to embark on an indefinite nationwide strike, the labor body said in a letter to the federal government. And to demonstrate its seriousness, the NLC mobilized workers for a 2-day warning strike on September 5th and 6th. Partially grounding social and economic activities in several states, with banks, ministries, and agencies and departments closed to the public in some states. The NLC leadership had said the action was in preparation for a total shutdown, which would start at the expiration of the ultimatum next week. Among other demands, the NLC and the Trade Union Congress were asking for wage awards, implementation of palliatives, tax exemptions and allowances to the public sector workers, and also a review of the minimum wage, because they've always been giving emphasis towards that aspect, the review of the minimum wage. Giving an update on the planned work out following the lukewarm attitude of the government, Onyeka insisted that the federal government had scored from the negotiation table, noting that it had also failed to meet the workers' demands. The union leader hinted that the strike would not notify the government before carrying out any actions it deemed fit. He said they would send letter to the federal government on September 1st, 2023, so that by September 22nd, 2023, that's the end of the 21-day ultimatum. So they have made it clear that the federal government has abandoned, from the table for negotiations, that the government is no longer negotiating with Nigerians, and there is no good faith negotiation that is currently going on. But President Bola Tinubu promised Nigerians on his own on television with the president of the NLC, Mr. Joe, that he was going to restructure the committees, but he did not do that. He didn't do that. And since then, the committees have not met and there have not been any negotiations that is ongoing. As it is now, the NLC is not even negotiating with the government, Onyeka said. And the Assistant General Secretary said Nigerians were insulted by the inadequate palliative being given. He lamented that, see, this is such a big insult. I mean, you will give a ward, a local government, to share a bag of rice. Is that what the government call palliative? This is more like an insult to Nigerians. So, whereas the government give legislators 70 billion naira and each legislator gets 100 million in a country where Nigerians are suffering. The federal government is buying cars and houses of over 100 million to each person, and Nigerians are keeping quiet, as if what's going on is a normal thing. The NLC calls Nigerians to put hands together because they cannot do this alone. No. When the NLC calls for action, the people should come out, and they should, because it is a collective effort to make the government yield to the desires and the interests of Nigerians, my country people. This is what we are seeing. When the federal government came up with the idea of a palliative, I know a lot of people had kicked against this. A lot of people kicked against this idea of a palliative proposed by the Tinubu-led administration. But at some point, others were saying, well, it's best we get this palliative than having nothing at our hands. But my country people, shey una don dey see wetin dey happen. This palliative now, the NLC, they are complaining that, oh, they are sharing one bag of rice for a ward. So how many cups of rice would get to a household? But this same federal government had proposed they would give the first time they came up with this idea of palliative, they proposed to give at least 8,000 naira to each household. They budgeted about 12 million households in this country. And here we see that at some point they gave the Nigerian, that's the National Assembly, the senators, 70 billion naira out of the palliative. Now they have given state governors 5 billion naira each to share for their citizens. Now we know that this money would not go a long way for anybody. 5 billion naira, meanwhile the National Assembly, the senators, the legislators, they are getting 70 billion naira. That is not among their allowances, their salaries and other benefits they are getting from the federal government, the exotic cars they are driving. And at the end of the day, the federal government will say, oh, they are trying to cut cost of governance. I don't think we are practicing such in this country. And with this kind of hardship we are facing in Nigeria, well, my country people, the NLC has called on Nigerians to be ready, because at any moment the 21-day ultimatum would elapse and surely there would be an indefinite strike. Guys, I'm dropping here. What are your thoughts on this? Kindly share your thoughts concerning this in the comment section. Thank you.